interest from Italy, Juventus and Napoli 2 possibilities. And then, again, guys, let me tell you about Maxence Lacroix. Because I told you, for Chelsea, he's a target. According to my information, he's in higher position rather than Jacopo Ramon in the list at Chelsea. And I can also tell you that Maxence Lacroix is eventually keen on a move to Chelsea. So Lacroix would open doors to this possibility. Then, on the negotiation, I will tell you more soon, but Lacroix is a name we have to keep there for Chelsea. A name that Chelsea are considering, contacts have already started, so in this moment, more Lacroix than Jacopo Ramon for Chelsea centre-back position. For sure, the relationship is also very good between Chelsea and Crystal Palace. They already did deals together in the recent years, so the connection is also a good point, also with the agents of the player. Again, I will tell you more soon on this one, because of course Lacroix is one of the names, is going to be one of the names in the summer, I think, of the summer transfer window. But for sure, we started with Chelsea, we finished with Chelsea. Very busy on the market. On this and much more, guys, remember to let me know your opinion here in the comments on Enzo Fernandez, on Nico Pass, on Chalobah, on Malo Gusto, on Lacroix, on Palestra, on Jacopo Ramon, on Grimaldo, on Vicario, on Dubravka, and much more. Remember, guys, to comment here as always. Remember to like this video, turn on the notification bell, subscribe to the channel, and see you soon here every single day. So subscribe, because we will be here again later today with more news, more updates, and the market moving in several directions. See you soon. Thank you. Ciao.
Chelsea fans, wake up, because there's a new name flying around Stamford Bridge and it's a big one. Maxence Lacroix. Yeah, the same Maxence Lacroix who's been an absolute rock for Crystal Palace for the last 2 seasons. Fabrizio Romano has put his name out there as Chelsea's top defensive target this summer, ahead of Jacopo Ramon and a few others on that list. Sounds exciting, I know. But before you go and book your Lacroix at the Bridge thumbnail, give me 9 minutes, because there's a lot more nuance to this than the headline is giving you. Let's talk about who this guy actually is first, because some of you are hearing the name for the first time. Lacroix is 26, French, 6'4", and he joined Palace from Wolfsburg back in 2024 for around €20 million. Since then he's basically become the heartbeat of that Palace back line. FA Cup winner. Community Shield winner. Europa Conference League winner. When Marc Guéhi left for City in January, a lot of people thought Palace's defence would fall apart. It didn't, and a big reason for that is Lacroix holding things together. He's currently out in the World Cup with France too, even if he's been more of a bench option behind their first choice pair. Now why Chelsea? Why now? Simple, their defence has been a walking injury list. Levi Colwill barely played after that ACL injury in pre-season. Fofana's been in and out, and his long-term future is still up in the air with Barcelona sniffing around. Dawson's missed huge chunks with calf and hamstring problems. Bajashile, same story, muscle injury after muscle injury. Honestly, the only one of that group who stayed fit and reliable is Trevoh Chalobah, and even he's just been called up by England for the World Cup instead of holding down a settled partnership at club level. XABI Alonso is walking into a defense that needs real surgery, not patchwork. And here's the bit that actually makes Lacroix make sense for Chelsea tactically. He's not some ball-playing, Guardiola-style centre-back who's going to dominate possession stats. He's more of a defend-first, organise the backline type, but he's genuinely comfortable when he's asked to play in a back three. That matters, because Alonso has built a big chunk of his managerial identity around exactly that shape, a three-at-the-back system. Add in that Chelsea have already tied up a deal for Atalanta's Marco Palestra, beating Inter Milan to him, and you can see the pattern. Palestra in for the wing-back areas, Lacroix next up to sort out the middle, with young Jacopo Ramon from Como still very much on the list as well. But and this is where I need you to actually think instead of just retweeting the breaking news graphic, Palace are not under any pressure whatsoever to sell this man. He signed a deal that runs all the way to 2029. He's been one of their most important players in the most successful spell in that club's history. On top of that, reports out of England have Arsenal and even Real Madrid keeping tabs on him too. So when a post tells you Chelsea have advanced and it's basically a done deal on top of their list, what's actually happened, according to the same reporting, is that initial contact has been made with his camp and talks are expected to develop. That is not the same thing as a deal being on. Those are two very different stages of a transfer, and the wording is doing a lot of heavy lifting here. Which brings me to Fabrizio himself, because I think it's time we stop treating every post from him like it's gospel. Don't get me wrong, the man has built a genuine empire, and a huge chunk of the time his information is solid. But his hit rate isn't what it used to be, and there's a pattern worth calling out. Remember the Christian Atsu situation during the Turkey earthquake, when he reported Atsu had been pulled out alive from the rubble? That turned out to be completely untrue, and it was about a man's life, not a transfer fee. Manchester City's Manuel Akanji had to publicly deny a Romano report linking him to Galatasaray, and Fabrizio ended up quietly deleting it. Those aren't small slip-ups. There's also the bigger criticism that's been following him all year, this idea of engagement farming, basically posting the same update over and over with slightly different wording just to keep the algorithm fed. People pointed to well over 100 posts in a single week around Diogo Jota's death as an example of that pattern. Southampton even cheekily announced one of their own signings by pointing out Fabrizio hadn't tweeted about it, like it was a badge of honor. When the most trusted name in the business starts getting mocked by actual football clubs, that tells you something about where trust levels are heading. So here's my honest take. Use Fabrizio as one voice in the room, not the only voice. Talks have opened and deal on should never be treated as the same headline, and on this Lacroix story specifically, the underlying